Okay, are you wanting to make this kind of layout for your own website with all of these boxes that are kind of like gridded together or they're neighbors right next to each other? Something kind of along these lines. I'm going to show you how to do it, so bear with me, okay? I'm going to go ahead and make this doc, this new doc, just so that way I can show you step by step from scratch, okay? So kind of just follow along, copy is what I'm doing. I'm making the structure for my HTML. You're going to need to put head, okay, because this is what is going to contain whatever fonts you may have, the title, and the style. And as well as you're going to do body, and that's going to pertain to the entire content that you're going to have on your website. Um, so yeah, let's start by putting header. Then we're going to put main, and we'll add footer as well. And we're going to put it in this order so that way when you open up your site, that is what the order is. It's going to be header first, and then the main boxes of all your content, and then footer. And inside main, we're going to make up some div classes. You can either name them specific names, but for right now I'm going to just do box 1, box 2, box 3, okay? This is also going to be how it'll be structured inside. And it'll make sense once I explain it when we get to styling it in CSS. And then of course inside of your header you would put your own title with your own name if that's what you want, whatever. But I'm just labeling all of this just so that you can understand where everything is going to be. So when you're copying it, you'll know what to assign in these boxes. So I'm adding some of this stuff because I found it to be pretty helpful to customize, say, like my HTML. Um, Underneath here, I would put some kind of meta so that way you can either do mobile accessibility if you wanted to. You don't have to. Also, this would be a great place to link your fonts. And if you want to know how to do that, just maybe leave a comment and I'll make a separate video. It's not very hard. So let's get into the style aspect of it. Your HTML, when you call out your HTML in style, this is where you will have your background image or a background color that is going to sit behind your entire content, right? And you can either make these images like a specific size or not. If you want your website to have one particular font for like the entire portion of it all, this is where you would put it. This way you don't have to be writing the font over and over again into your other boxes, into their own styling sections of whatever. Yeah, this is where you would plug it in. This is where you would put that background image. You would just put URL and then whatever JPEG or PNG that you might have, you would probably put that in there as well. If you're trying to make your background image fit to look a certain way, this is how you would do it. You would use background size and you would scale it down, by pixel or by percentage, as since you're going to be a beginner. As well as like the way that you structure your body beneath, you're also going to structure it on the top. So whatever you write on the bottom, you have to write on the top in your style. This is basically like the mother parent box that's going to hold all of your content and allow them to kind of create those sections and those grid kind of functions. So you would want to put display grid and either display grid columns or rows. It's kind of your choice, but I'm going to do rows for this occasion just so that way the boxes are kind of stacked on top of each other. And then it'll create a more stacked look. And I'm also going to scale it by frame so that they'll have their each equal part within the parent box. So we're going to do rows, and I'm going to put one frame for as many boxes as I have. So it's 3. So I'm going to do one frame, one frame, one frame. And here I'm going to make the width of the entire parent box just like a general, like I think I put 900 pixels, which is a typical size. You could either put, a smaller size or 1,000, whatever. I'm going to make a border just so it clarifies for you, the viewer, what we're working on and what I'm talking about. And then this also gives you an idea how to make borders. You can make them however thick. You can either make them solid, whatever, or whatever color even. This would also be a good time to put in a background color if you want. I'm just using what they have. So this is what it would kind of look like. Okay, trust the process. Like, bear with me. You see everything that we wrote in body is now showing up in the live part. So I'm gonna kind of like make different colors. Again, I'm also gonna make the height to just fit the content because I'm not entirely sure how much you want to fit in there, and this is just for a general sake. You can make your own set height if you want to. So within the 3 boxes that we made, we're also going to apply the same command. We're also going to put grid in each of these boxes because I'm assuming you want to put more kind of minor content inside of said boxes. So I'm going to color them differently, and I'm going to put different borders, just like I did with the parent box, just so we can clarify as to what it is that I'm talking about. You don't have to put 3 boxes if you don't want to. You can even try 4. I've never tried 4. Or maybe even like just 2 big boxes, and you can just keep going smaller and smaller. But this is basically what it'll end up looking like. Whatever you put in here, it'll show up on that other side of your like live broadcasting server, I'm also going to make the width for the first box because it will dictate how much space gets used within all the other boxes, right? Because I put 1 frame by 1 frame, okay? However wide you make them, it'll adjust accordingly to make sure each box fits, say, like a quarter of each part of the box. If that makes sense, basically. So it just really depends on how big you make them. The smaller, the better you're able to fit more of them. The bigger, it gets a bit harder to fit, say, like more than 3, depending on how you're sizing them. But I'm just gonna go with like a general size. I'm actually gonna start with height, just so I can understand, kind of like how big we're looking. So see, like I did 300. This is kind of what you're gonna be looking at. And then, like I said, those boxes got a lot bigger because now it's trying to compete with the size. So it wants to make sure each of the boxes that you've mentioned all fit equally within the parent box that we made, And I'm just going to go down and I'm going to do the same exact thing for box 2. We're going to call out box 2 and we're going to call out box 3, and we're pretty much going to write the same thing. However, the only difference is that you will be able to say make it however you want. I'm just giving like a general thing so you understand. This would even be a good time to say pull up your background images if you wanted to do a background image. I'll show that here in a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to do colors. And the reason that I am pretty much putting the same thing in each 3 boxes is because I am probably going to put other smaller boxes of content within these boxes. So I want them to behave pretty much like the parent box, whenever I decide to put more stuff inside of them, they'll pretty much behave the same exact way. And like I said, you could either use rows or columns for within them, but in here I'm just gonna do columns just because why not? Something else to note is you want to make sure that all of your brackets in your style or your CSS, this is the same thing. You want to make sure that they're closed. I am giving myself this space just so that way I can visually see them and then I don't accidentally delete them and wonder what happened and what went wrong. And then as well as you want to make sure that your I forget what they're called, but you just want to make sure that all of your commands are closed and that there's nothing left open, because you can make a mistake and you won't be able to find exactly where you made that mistake because you potentially left something open. So just keep that in mind. Um, One thing I do like about Visual Studio Code, is that it'll show you where there is a mistake, as you can see in the top right little miniature corner. The reason that it's showing up red is because I did not give any proper commands to the header style. Like, there's nothing in there. It's just an empty shell, and it's just alerting me that there is an empty shell. So inside of our first box that we labeled the top section, because that's what you're going to end up seeing first, we're going to put other little boxes in there, just to give you like an idea as to what you could potentially be putting in these boxes. Like, you can put your intro where you can explain what your website's about and when you started, or you can even do an about section that kind of just introduces who you are, the things that you like, your favorite colors, your favorite type of aesthetics, and that kind of stuff. I usually like to put blinkies and stamps relatively like at the top, so that way it catches everybody's attention. You don't have to do that. You could possibly do like a little updates box instead, where it keeps everybody, update as to what you did last on your site, what you worked on last. So as you can see, like, because of how we did this, they were in their columns. And because I added another little box, it kind of shows up at the bottom. And it's going to be react in the same size as all of its other sibling boxes. And you'll just want to call them out too. You want to make sure you're staying organized as well, so that way you can kind of like figure it out what it is you're reading when you're looking at your website. Because depending on how big you want to make your site, you'll kind of lose track of a lot of stuff. So I kind of like to put in this little small note as to the start of something and then the end of something, um, to get an idea of what is what. Basically, you're just labeling what everything is and what it belongs to. So you'll want to put your background image, right? Like I said, you'll do the URL. But if you think that this is too big of a scale, then you can just use background size and just scale it down to cover. And then it just tries to fit the entire image on there. So depending on how big your image actually is, it'll look. I'm just using grid paper, but see, like, I did 30 pics, or yeah, and it like really scaled it down. So you can use, your own kind of sizing to get whatever look that you're trying to go for, depending on what your image is. So you're probably wondering about like the header, and what it is you can be doing for the header. So I forgot to kind of put that in there. We were making all like the structure for like our styling. Um, this is where, like I said, you want to put like your background image and whatever that you've made or something like that. I'm gonna put a border just so like you can see the size of it and like where exactly it pops up. So this is where you would put your image, right? You'll put your URL, and that just kind of pulls it from your own desktop or whatever file you have that is attached to whatever you're using, either brackets or Visual Studio. You'll plug in like your image, whatever it's called, whatever you named it, and it can be in the background of your header. And then yeah, so like say you can make an image and then just plug it into there, of course. I'm gonna write a bunch of nonsense just so you can like, understand that like sometimes whenever you size your boxes to stuff and you go and you write content, your writing of whatever will surpass it. I obviously did not make enough gibberish to do that, so whatever. But it will probably happen depending on like how much you decide to write in any of your boxes. So I'm just gonna generate some randomness. That's probably almost good. Whatever. So you'll go to your box, right? Whichever one you've named it, and whichever one is like kind of overflowing, and you'll put, uh, your own height, of course. I'm trying to make it look like it's overflowing, and you'll put overflow Y scroll, so that this way you can like have that like scrolling effect. I can also talk about how to edit your own like scroll bar and your track and the thumb if anybody's like actually interested in that. But yeah. So now you say you're finally done maybe and you're kind of ready to put it in the middle. You'll want to put margin auto, and this will automatically kind of like fix where it's going to be. So depending on whatever screen you tend to be looking at, like however big, it will generally always place your content like in the middle of the screen. It it depends. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you put auto, it just automatically does it. I haven't had a problem with it yet, but yeah. And then now you can go into like your other little baby boxes, right, that we've put in our like top section, and you can assign different styling to that. You can do borders, you can do even like different background images, even different fonts, which like I said, like I can make another video about that if you ever want to, but oh, this is like the gapping part. Sometimes I don't want them to sit right on top of each other. I want to look like they've been like comfortably put into here, and you'll just put gap however big. Like you could do 15, you could do 10, 5 maybe, or even like 100 if you want to go crazy. But um yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I'm kind of like experimenting with this right here because I thought that it would stretch all the way at the bottom, but I'm pretty sure you can go into the parent box, so like our top section box, and you can just change the framing. You can put one frame, one frame, one frame, and then you can add another sizing because you've now had like a fourth box, and it can stretch all the way. So I'm actually gonna try and insert a clip of that. Hold on. Oh, it didn't actually work. I'll have to figure that out on a different time, but this is not that time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was like helpful. If you have any questions, go ahead and like leave a comment. I will try to answer them as best as I can. Bear in mind, I'm also still technically a beginner too. So, bye.